Hey, what's up and who dat, everybody? Welcome to the best podcast around. That's the Who Dat Dish podcast, of course. This is the second part of episode 27. If you didn't see the first part, make sure you go check that out. Per usual, though, I'm your co-host, Tyler Raymond.
And I'm also your host, Dayton Brown. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is possibly the biggest podcast episode in production history because this is the biggest Saints game of the season. They will be hosting the Atlanta Falcons. Second time these teams are matching up. We'll be covering that with our special guest, who I'm going to introduce. He's a good friend of the show, Twitter superstar, and he is, of course, a huge Saints fan and enthusiast. Everybody, please welcome back to the show, Mark George. Mark, how are you, man?
Woo! Thanks to the fans for all the clapping. I appreciate it.
Yes. Live studio audience for you, man.
I'm good, man. Happy to be back. Second time. Enjoyed the first time. I feel like we had a good show, so
yeah, absolutely.
Happy to be back, man.
And you're coming back on after a Saints victory and hopefully previewing a game where the Saints will win as well. And hopefully also clinch the NFC South with just one game remaining in the regular season. Let's jump into articles of the week. I had two quick articles to mention from whodatdish.com. It'll segue us into a pretty big topic. But the first article I want to go over, both of these are going to be by Roy Anderson. It discusses the Saints having 6 players voted into the Pro Bowl. Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Cameron Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, and Michael Thomas, of course. Michael Thomas getting his first Pro Bowl nod of his very young career. Of course, Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore, both rookies, making it in. Marshawn Lattimore, the youngest Saint ever to be voted in. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. What I wanted to dive into was some unfortunate news for the Saints. It was A.J. Klein is officially out for at least the regular season, probably the foreseeable future after that as well in the playoffs. He was put into IR. The Saints, to fill that roster spot, they signed tight end John Phillips. So if you would like to read that article, it's on Who Dat Dish. It's by Roy Anderson. So let's talk about that quickly, guys. It is unfortunate A.J. Klein's going to be out. He was a brand new acquisition for the Saints in the offseason from Carolina. Provided great leadership for the team, athletic, really good linebacker in coverage and plugging up the middle. Mark, I'll start with you. How much of a loss is this for the Saints?
It's pretty big in my eyes. I mean, it takes away a lot, not just the leader, but, with Anzalone down, that he was left as our most athletic linebacker, our fastest linebacker. So that hurts the second level's athleticism big. And obviously the leadership that he brought, the ability to line everybody up and, keep the defense lined up properly. So that's pretty big. We're going to find out against a pass-happy team with Atlanta, with, those two running backs that they have that can, burn you in the flats and running the ball. So his speed is going to be missed, I feel.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. We have like 4 injuries on that side of the ball, right, with the right defensive end of Alex Okafor and Trey Hendrickson both going down, and then Alex Anzalone and now A.J. Klein are both down as well. So we got to be cautious now. What do you think about the injury, Tyler?
You know me. I love the metaphors. If you guys have ever seen that Family Guy episode where Peter Griffin's running home and he falls and he scrapes his knee and he's down for what feels like hours.
Right.
This is the Saints right now. You have their I think they wrote on Twitter that their field captain, their general, A.J. Klein. Mm-hmm. He's one of the. I wouldn't say he's the main reason why we've found success this season, but he's certainly helped. And, I think it's going to sting a bit. But hopefully, like we've mentioned in the past, the linebacker position for the Saints defense this year isn't what's keeping the defense going. So hopefully we can just rely on the front 4 getting pressure and our cornerbacks in man coverage stopping opposing receivers, and hopefully we should be fine. But it's still unfortunate, though. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Very, very interesting question posed by a good friend of ours, Ty Nania, who used to work for Who Dat Dish. He said, for A.J. Klein, are we going to miss more of the athletic linebacker, or are we going to miss the man with the helmet that has the radio, that is getting the calls, that is helping this defense out, as you mentioned, Mark, putting the players in position to make good plays? And he was a big reason the Saints were able to turn the defensive after the first 2 games against the Vikings and the Patriots. He improved his play, improved his leadership, really got settled into the defense, and it's unfortunate to not have him for these 2 very big games down the stretch. But I'm confident in Dennis Allen. He knows the players well. He runs very good personnel packages. Manti Te'o, Michael Mauti, these guys are going to have to step up in Klein's place, and I'm excited to see that. Let's jump into this is the biggest game we're going to cover, I think, until we get to the playoffs. This is going to be bigger than the Buccaneers. This might even be bigger than whatever our first-round matchup ends up being because it is such a heated rivalry game. And after the controversy of a couple weeks ago, Tyler, let's preview this game, man. This is going to be huge.
Let's do it. So, guys, if there was one game the Saints absolutely need to win, it's this Sunday's matchup, of course, against their division rival, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are 9-5, and just 2 weeks ago, with help from our good friends, the referees, of course. The referees are undefeated this season. They barely triumphed the now 10-4 New Orleans Saints by a score of 20-17. But this game looks to be the defining moment in the Saints season if the team expects to claim the NFC South. It's just been crazy. And yeah, despite all the other crazy games we've had, this one against a average team at best looks to be the biggest one. So let's roll right into it. So I'll start it off. What do you guys think will be the biggest obstacles that the Falcons have that the Saints need to overcome to win this game? I'll start with you, Mark. What do you think? Where the Falcons pose any challenges against us, what would they be?
With how we just talked about it, without AJ Klein, Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman are scary. Both of those can go the distance. So that's one big thing that I'm kind of worried about. Just being able to cover those guys. We seen last week. I want to say it was it Manti Te'o in coverage against Elijah McGuire on the big pass play.
Yeah,
and I love Elijah. I know Elijah personally, but he's no Devontae Freeman or Tevin Coleman at this point. So that can be scary, those matchups. So that's the main thing I'm worried about at this point. From the defensive side, offensively, Atlanta does have a sneaky good defense. They do a lot of things well. They have a lot of speed. So we have to score. So that'll be the 2 things that I'm kind of.
I'm interested to see if Dennis Allen is going to run 3 safety sets in this game with Klein being down, having them cover back running backs out of the backfield or maybe even tight ends like Hopper instead of putting them on somebody like Manti Te'o or Michael Mauti, who aren't exactly as great coverage linebackers, especially when you compare them to AJ Klein. Yeah, this Falcons defense is athletically gifted.
Yes.
But they are susceptible to mistakes. Not nearly as bad in terms of penalties for the Saints, but I think this game obviously it's dome, so the Saints are the only home field advantage we're going to have is the noise of the crowd. Other than that, the Saints don't have too big of an advantage because the Falcons are so used to playing in the dome. So the fans are going to have to be loud because we're going to have to get this defense on its heels to make more mistakes because they are so susceptible to that. So false start penalties, offsides, all the young guys on both of the lines for the Falcons. Hopefully, we are able to capitalize on those mistakes, put points on the board. As far as offense and for the Falcons, our defense going up against them, it's all about Devontae Freeman has a streak against us for touchdowns. We got to stop that. He scored. I think it's 5 or 6 games in a row against us. He scored a touchdown, at least one touchdown.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a bad streak that we need to stop. But then again, if you stop Freeman, you still have to stop Tevin Coleman. Without Klein,
exactly.
I'm just glad both Lattimore and Crawley are going to be healthy. That's going to help us a lot, containing Sanu and of course Julio Jones. I hope you guys saw this on Twitter. It was so funny on Monday Night Football. They picked up Matt Ryan yelling at Mohamed Sanu, get the F set. And somebody tweeted that, and the caption was, "This is how you have to talk to these guys who blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl." And it had me howling. It was so funny. It was so funny. But Sanu and Jones and this offense is very talented, very versatile all around. So it's going to be us covering the guys out of the backfield, because if we have Lattimore keeping Jones in check, Crawley keeping Sanu in check, it doesn't matter if Coleman and Freeman are running wide open. So I'm interested to see how that happens, and also we gotta capitalize on the mistakes, put points on the board like we did against the Jets. First 3 possessions, all of them were scores, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. That's how we have to start out against Atlanta. Because once we have that lead, it's just smooth sailing from there, I think, for the Saints. They're able to hold their own for the most part, as we've seen this season, and let the momentum ride us. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Just to prove my point, I figured I'd pull it up anyway for you guys. 2 weeks ago, Devontae Freeman, 24 attempts, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Tevin Coleman, 9 attempts for 32 yards. So, yeah, the biggest obstacle, I think, right now, it's just like the Saints star one thing on this list that the Atlanta Falcons have, it's their running backs. They're not as versatile how the Saints have been using Ingram and Kamara this year, but they definitely blow things wide open, and it's really annoying if you can't stop Coleman and Freeman. So I think if the Saints do that, hopefully it'll be smooth sailing. But speaking of the Saints and Falcons, what do you guys expect to be the biggest strengths and the weaknesses of both teams this Sunday? I'll start with you, Dan. What do you think?
So I think strengths for the Saints is definitely going to be through the air, whether it be passing it to Kamara on screens, because I think that this team is really built around, offensively at least, running really effective screens. You got to give credit. Hopefully Larry Warford is healthy for this game, because if you see him out, peeling out on those screens, he's able to pick up blocks. So is Brandon Coleman. Even though he had 2 fumbles last game, he's so valuable to us for his blocking. Mark Ingram got that 50-yard touchdown because of Brandon Coleman. He had a very nice seal block, and it was a great play by Coleman. And that's why we need Coleman in that offense. No matter if he fumbles 2-5 times a game, he's just so good at blocking. It's so valuable for us. But we're gonna need to go through the air for screen games, getting Warford, Coleman out there blocking for Kamara and Ingram, or just throw it up to the new Pro Bowler and Michael Thomas, have him go catch the ball. He pretty much had, Tyler mentioned this last episode with Joe, he pretty much had his own drive to get us a touchdown against the Jets. And so we need to see more of that. Weaknesses, I definitely think it's going to be the middle of the defense. AJ Klein being out, of course. You have the right side weaker with Alex Okafor, so Sheldon Rankins has to pick up a little bit more slack. You watch the Jets; they were able to run all over. I shouldn't say run all over us, but they were able to get more rushing yards than they should have because our defense left so many holes open, especially in the middle of the trenches. So that's, I think, where our weaknesses are going to fall. Hopefully we can, like I said, have some good personnel packages. Kenny Vaccaro step up, maybe fill those gaps. Or Manti Te'o could play lights out and surprise us, and we won't have to worry about that. That would be fantastic. Strengths for the Falcons, I think it's kind of the same thing as the Saints. I think they're going to have to go through the air. Close second is their defensive line. I think they might have a really good time getting to Drew Brees, getting pressure on him, making errant throws. That's how he got the interception last week. He was just pressured. And I think that the Falcons, obviously, you have guys like Adrian Claiborne, Deion Jones, Vic Beasley, able to make plays. Tuck McKinley as well, the rookie. So that's going to be interesting to see. I do think that the Falcons' biggest strength, though, is through the passing game, just because of how versatile their wide receiver core is. And I think their weakness is their secondary, and that's what makes me really happy for the Saints to go through the air with Michael Thomas and Kamara. So they're just undersized, I think, in the secondary. Desmond Trufant is not playing the way he did his first 2 seasons in the league. He was very, very good young player. He's just been fairly inconsistent since. So we're going to have to attack that for sure. So that's why I'm very confident in the Saints. Our strengths and their weaknesses kind of match up in this game. So I'm excited to see that.
What do you think, Mark?
I'm pretty much on par with Dayton. I like our strength for me is I like our running backs. That's either in the screen game, like Dayton said, just passes out, and of course running the ball. I feel like we that's how we should win this game. I'm hoping last game for some reason we passed the ball more than we would want it to, I guess you would say. Even though Drew Brees had a really good game against them, but that kind of killed our defense towards the end of the game as they were tired when we didn't have success passing the ball. They're going 3-4, whatever, going 3 and out, and getting the defense right back on the field. And that third quarter, beginning of the fourth, that kind of, the defense looked flat. So I think we have to run the ball. And the strength for Atlanta, same thing. They're running backs. They obviously have Julio, who's a top 3 receiver in the league. But Atlanta, if they had the choice to throw it up to Julio or throw the ball and hand it off to Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, they're going to take Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman.
Yeah.
So that's what they want to do. So we need to, try to shut down their passing game. I mean, their running backs and make them go to Julio. Make them throw against Marshawn Lattimore and Ken Crawley.
Yeah.
So the weaknesses for both teams, I think, like Dayton said, their secondary they're up and down. They're really talented, but like Dayton said, they're pretty much having a really down year. And our linebacking core, we're beat up there. We're back to playing 2 years ago when we drafted Haoli Kikaha. We had him at Sam Backer. We're back to playing him at Sam Backer. So that tells you how beat up our linebacking core is right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is. And you know what I find funny? Oh, we mentioned our running backs and stuff. I agree with both of you. I don't think I could have said it better, so I'm not going to try it. But I just find it funny how right now we're number first in the league. I think in either total offense or either yards or something like that. We've got really productive offense. I just find it amusing, like in an ironic sort of way, how when something happens, or whether we're up on another team or another team is up on us, how we almost completely forget the running game, and I think it all comes down to, like, if it comes down to, like, if you just have to, like, keep track of it, make it 50-50, split right down the middle, pass half the time, run half the time, because, I don't know, man, it's just, I think it's funny how we have one of the best running backs in the league right now. We have the best
two of the best running backs.
We have the best duo of running backs in this league, and yet when it comes down to either us, falling behind or us even being up on other teams, they're nowhere to be found. But so
that's the Sean Payton effect there. That's showing DNA to pass the ball. So kind of got to take the good with the bad. So.
Well, someone needs to come down here and remove that out of his DNA. I really appreciate it. But
he may feel naked if you take that away from him, man. It's going to be out of.
Take the good with the bad, I guess, right? With the bad.
We've dealt with it for 10 years now. 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
11 years right here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Man, it's nuts how much we made Drew throw in the past. It really is. But,
yeah.
So, a big controversy, or at least for Saints fans, something we were pretty upset about. Well, I know all three of us were the silly penalties that got called. We lost points off of that, just little things. And the injuries, both of those combined were practically its own player because they both played a huge role in determining the outcome of that game 2 weeks ago. So, would you guys think it'll play a big role as it did last week? Okay, 2 weeks ago. Let me rephrase. Obviously, it played a big role 2 weeks ago. How big of a role do you think it will play? Let's start off with you, Dan. What do you think? How big of a role those will play in that game?
I don't know. It's really hard to predict whether or not referees are going to be good or bad in certain games. Obviously, I'm hoping penalties don't. That's the thing about referees. Is why I think that they need more punishment when they, make bad calls. Is half of the game, or probably a third of the game more, is dependent on the referees. If they mess up. If players on the field mess up, they obviously get punishment by their coaches, whether it be sit out or less reps. If referees are messing up for games for these teams, especially on the highest level in the pros, they have to be, there has to be some sort of punishment for them because their effect on the game is just way too big. So they have their hand in the cookie jar for every single game that the Saints have to play. And hopefully being home this time either gives us a very neutral calling system for these referees, or it's sort of kind of in our favor. I obviously wouldn't mind that. I want it to be as fair as possible, but being home, it could lean towards us. So I do think if it ends up coming, again, it's hard to predict. It will have a huge effect in the game. Referees they just have their hand on the pulse of every single game.
Yeah. What do you think, Mark?
I agree, man. It's no way to really predict it. You just kind of sit there and hope that, like I felt like that game against them, I would have been fine with all the penalties, if it was called even. I felt like we were,
right.
We were just, and I don't want to, like I'm crying, but I just felt like a couple of calls like that. For example, two times, that first play with, not the first play, but that first drive, I want to say with Michael Thomas, the possible touchdown when he was obviously interfered or held by Desmond Trufant. And then, the next drive, Marshawn Lattimore gets the same call, but he gets the flag. And then the face mask penalty that was missed when Michael Thomas got poked in the eye. How is that not seen? Every receiver in the NFL on every play has at least one referee looking at them. That's the way it works. So there's no way that referee didn't see that face mask. Yeah. So it's just stuff like that kind of that I didn't like. So like I said, there's no way to know, what's going to happen with the refs. We just hope for some consistency.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. And now, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but it's funny. I almost find it really classy of Michael Thomas. Obviously, on Twitter, he's all about the shh and everything. But do you guys think he complained? Like, how sometimes you have Brady, he gets hit too hard. He'll whine about it and get a penalty. Do you guys think he complained about it to the refs? Because, I don't know if a ref saw it, but maybe if they believed him enough, they would throw a penalty.
No, they won't. They won't really go off of of he say. Unless you're Tom Brady, that's the only way you're getting that flag.
Unless you're the golden face, if you're the golden face of the NFL, they will throw a flag for whatever you want. But if you're Michael Thomas, there's no way. And he doesn't. That's not him, as you kind of mentioned, Tyler, with his whole slogan. That's not him. He stays quiet. Almost kind of like Marcus Colston's nickname was Quiet Storm, and that was the reason. There wasn't a lot of words coming out of his mouth during game. He would talk, and that's what Michael Thomas does. That's what this whole Saints organization.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
My bad. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Mark. But yeah. That's kind of how the whole organization operates. So I wouldn't see Michael doing that at all.
You don't see too much complaining to the refs, huh? Yeah. Except Sean Payton last game. I mean that game, but
right.
Man,
that's a different story.
Did you see him? Did you
turn
see
into an emoji? Like a fire emoji.
Did you see when the Saints got that, or we kind of against the Jets when we technically recovered that onside kick? He was yelling at that Jets play. Did you guys? I don't know if you guys saw it. He was on the sideline. He was like yelling at the Jets, like our ball, and I was like, why is he yelling at this dude?
Happened? No. If you look at it, what happened? The player kind of rolled into him, and he was kind of like, like get the F back, kind of.
Oh, gotcha.
Like his momentum carried him as he went for the ball, going out of bounds. His momentum carried him. If you remember, I want to say 2012. When Sean Payton broke his leg, I want to say when the player ran, it was something
ACL or something like that.
It was something. It was something in that similar to that. So I guess Sean kind of that went through his head. The player kind of like his momentum took him into Sean, and Sean was like, "What the F are you doing?"
He looked heated.
Yeah, he was chopping at him. Yeah, I seen it. I remember it.
Good stuff from Mr. Payton.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, it's funny. If the word anger could be put into a woman, would be described as a lady, I swear Sean Payton would be all over that. Him and anger have a very special relationship.
Yeah.
But the next one I've got for you guys, whoever wants this first, absolutely go ahead and take it. But if you had to pick a few players, or at least one, you'd expect or you would like to make a positive impact for the Saints. So this player is going to be right there through the thick of it. Is going to be there helping the team throughout the entire game. He's going to be the impact player that really put the Saints over the edge, whether it be on offense, defense, special teams. Who would you choose?
I got two, one for each side of the ball. First is going to be Teron Armstead. Is going to be able to protect Drew Brees well enough for Brees to be at least somewhat comfortable in the pocket. He got a little bit of pressure against New York. Didn't get sacked. So Armstead played great. That whole entire offensive line played great. Warford, it's not sure if he's going to play in this game. So everybody on that offensive line is going to step up, but especially Armstead protecting that blind side for Drew Brees. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't know. It's going to be a whole slew of guys with Klein out, and obviously with all the other injuries we've had to deal with. I'm going to pick I kind of want to go with an obvious answer in Cam Jordan. Just because of how impressive he played against the Jets. But I'll go with Sheldon Rankins. Is he going to be able to, pick up the double teams like he has been during the season and help Jordan out a little bit? Is he going to be able to stop the run up the middle or at least help that out with Klein being out? So it's toss-up for me between those two. But due to Klein being out, I'd go with Rankins.
There you go. How about you, Mark?
Okay. Offensively, I'm going to go with Ted Ginn. We're assuming he's going to be back.
Yeah. I'm
going to go with Ted Ginn. I think we need somebody to be that clear number 3 option. in the pass game. Obviously, we got 1 with Michael Thomas and 2 with Alvin Kamara. So I think that third option is the one that we need to step up the most. We know we're going to get all of those 2 in the front. They're pretty consistent. So I'm more worried about when those 2 options, taken away for a player or a drive or 2. With Deion Jones covering Alvin Kamara, that's a really good matchup that the Falcons may favor. But obviously, as a Saints fan, we're going to favor outside.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Michael Thomas, Desmond Trufant. The Falcons, they have every right to favor Trufant in that matchup. And the same can be said from the Saints. So I feel like that number 3 option, which I guess you would say is Ted Ginn, and that's who I would pick on the offensive side. Defensively, I go with Kenny Vaccaro with A.J. Klein out. I think he's going to match up a good bit with those running backs. So, and like we talked about earlier, that's kind of the X factor on both sides, the running back. So if Kenny can have a decent game against those running backs coming out the backfield, and even just making the tackles and the flats, that's going to go to those guys. I think that'll be big for us. So that's what I'll go with.
There you go. For me, I don't have a defensive one. I think just a main concept again of everybody playing together, playing smart, and doing their job. For offense, I've got 2 guys. First one may surprise you a bit, guys, but I'm going to say Drew Brees, and here's why. Obviously, arguably he's our best player, even though he's 38 years old. Arguably he's our best player on this team. It's simply because of what he's able to do when he's called upon, and I think that goes an extra yard in saying he needs to play smart, and obviously, unfortunately, we had an opportunity to have points on that final drive. It's funny. We mentioned, take a look at episode 27 earlier, 27A, technically, if you'd call it. Joe mentioned how his grandmother told him that, when you have an opportunity to put points on the board, you seize the opportunity. You make sure it happens. And, obviously, I think half of it goes to saying that, Josh Hill shouldn't have been the target there, and why'd you go to Josh Hill? But the thing is, for me, look, you've got explosive playmakers in this offense. You've got Alvin Kamara. You've got Mark Ingram, who you can rely on the screen game. We did that against the Jets very successfully. You've got Ted Ginn Jr., who could beat you downfield despite him being in his 30s. You've got Michael Thomas, who is practically the god of all routes. You've got all these amazing options. I would just like to see Drew Brees play smart, play productive football. He knows what he's doing. He's been in this league forever. Yeah, just play smart football. And my other guy would be, here's another shocker for you guys, Willie Snead. Need for Snead. We haven't heard that saying because he hasn't been utilized. He hasn't been fully utilized yet. I almost wish I could be in the guy's head and see what's the matter. I don't know what's the deal. Like, he barely gets a reception a game, if that, and I don't know. I would just love to see Willie Snead utilized, because when he's effective, he puts this offense over the top. I've said this so many times. And the funny part is, I don't know if he's be back next year, and I talk with so many people, and so many people want a receiver right now, the draft, and honestly, I don't blame them, it's really sad, the fact that we had this receiver who we could rely on for a couple of seasons, and after the whole incident and everything since the injury, he hasn't been himself. Need for Snead, more like get Willie out of my house. I don't know. But that's who I would say. But let's see, we've got score predictions left before we move on to our next topic. Let's hear them, guys. And Dayton, I know you've got a couple from our Who Get Dish staff you want to mention.
Yes.
Mention those for you. Mention your guys'.
Yeah, I'll get those out of the way, and then I'll do my score prediction and pass it off to Mark. Roy Anderson, our editor, he's got the Saints winning 24-21. He's not very confident in that. He said he doesn't really have a clue on this one. He did say 24-21, so I just think he thinks it's going to be a very close game. But yeah, I'm with him. It's kind of unpredictable at this point. Tony Twilley, he said it's going to be a big one for the Saints, 38-28, and 7 of Atlanta's 28 will come in garbage time. He said if Warford doesn't play, it's going to be a touchdown less for each team. essentially. I have the Saints winning 27-20. I kind of think the same thing that Tony said will happen. I think Atlanta will get a garbage time touchdown to make it only a 7-point game, but I think for a majority of the game it'll be 27-13 or 24-10, something like that. Saints will get out to a lead, steadily keep it, have some good plays, and overall defensively lock down and get ready for hopefully clinching the NFC South and playing Tampa Bay next week to gear up for the playoffs. So Saints 27-20 for me. Mark, what do you think?
I'm going to go off the limb a little bit, man. I'm going 45-21. I think that Sean Payton is kind of fed up. I think Drew Brees is fed up this week. I think this game is going to be emotionally. I think the whole team is fed up. Mike Thomas, he talks a lot on Twitter about it. Throwing the little shade shots. So I think this is going to be a big game offensively. I think Sean's going to dig really, really deep. And not really hold anything back against this Atlanta team. So I feel like it's going to be, and we've been waiting on this game for a while. Definitely at home. I can't remember one that we just kind of outside of the Detroit game, the first 3 quarters, I guess you say, that we just kind of blew it open. So I think we're long overdue for one of those 354 touchdown games from Drew. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get this one, and that's what I'll predict.
Atlanta's like the worst 9-5 team I've ever seen. They're so average. I can't believe they're 4 games under 500 through this point in the season. So I really hope we just blow the doors off of them.
Yeah, and on the other side it is Carolina. I don't see how they're 10-4.
Me neither. We spanked them twice, and then they're somehow like the same record as us. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like nobody else could really beat them but us.
Nope.
It's crazy.
Only us, right?
What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, there you go. It's funny. Originally, heading into this episode, I was going to say 30-17, but I feel like I'm almost being a little conservative there. I'm going to say 35-24. I'll give Falcons another touchdown, but I'll give us another 5 points. I think it's funny. None of us mentioned this. The Saints are treating this like a playoff game. I heard that they were passing out towels. Some of the reporters were saying the Saints are absolutely encouraging fans to get loud on first and second down. They want it to be electric. And what's even funnier, I figured I had to put this in. The Saints are not the Saints, but Saints fans want Reggie Bush to come back. I bet you, Mark, you probably remember this. Dayton, maybe you too.
Yeah.
But you guys remember when the Saints played the Cardinals and Reggie Bush came out with a bat and they were ready to play. I would love to see that this game.
Yeah.
If we brought back Reggie Bush because he just retired and have him bring out a bat and be like, the Saints mean business. But
from what I've heard, it's not going to happen because
I wish
he does work for NFL Network. So that So I don't think it's.
He could come out.
I would love it though.
Like I know he's not as polarizing or as big of a figure for Saints fans as Deuce McAllister, but Deuce McAllister was an honorary team captain for our playoff game when we went to the Super Bowl. I could see Reggie doing something like that in the playoffs if we get far enough. I'd like to see that, although, like I said, he's not as big of a figure for Saints sports history as Deuce McAllister, but he's still pretty important, pretty big fan favorite. So I'd like to see that. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
The newer generation.
Yeah. Newer generation.
The newer generation.
Yes.
Yeah. He is part of when everything started. 06 was when things changed. So
Sean Payton's
the newer
first
generation
draft pick.
went on.
Yep, Payton's first draft pick as a New Orleans Saint. So
yeah,
that would be very funny though. Can you imagine, guys, like if Reggie Bush was reporting for the game or was one of the analysts for the game, and he's wearing like a fancy suit and stuff. And all he sees him, he rips off the suit. He has like his jersey on. He just runs over with a bat. I'm like, Reggie, where you going? Oh, we lost Reggie. But yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I would love it too. I guess I'll leave my jeans for right now. But this seems like a perfect time right now, guys, to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to be talking about some very special players who made the Pro Bowl. And I'll give you guys a hint in case you don't know. We've got some Saints players. So who knows? If the Saints make it to the Super Bowl, we won't be there. But who knows? Either way, it's going to be a good time. So stick with us. We'll be right back. And yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. We're here with Mark George. Thanks for coming on the show. Again, Mark, always a pleasure to have you. We are going to jump into 2018 Pro Bowl time. Very exciting topic for the New Orleans Saints. All the voting has come in from fans and everybody else. And even though the Saints have been snubbed in years past from the Pro Bowl, it looks like this year we're going to be represented very, very well. We have 6 players voted in: Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas on offense. And then we have Cameron Jordan and Marshawn Lattimore on defense. Lattimore became...
I think I'm cutting out, guys. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're good.
We still hear you, man. You're good.
You're good, Mark. Lattimore has become the youngest Saints player ever to be voted into the Pro Bowl. And Drew Brees is getting to his 11th career Pro Bowl, which has tied him for 15th all-time for Pro Bowl appearances. Among the active players on this 2018 Pro Bowl roster, he's tied with Larry Fitzgerald for second most Pro Bowl appearances, only behind Tom Brady, who has 13. So very impressive for Drew, and obviously Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara are 2 rookies, and the Saints have the first set of running backs voted into the Pro Bowl in the same year since 1975. So a lot of records being broken. This is fantastic. Obviously, caps off this season. Let's discuss about this. Mark, what impressed you most about the selections? What was one of the selections that you said you were maybe a little bit afraid this guy wasn't going to get in, but you were happy to get in? Was it Jordan, Thomas, Kamara?
It's easily Michael Thomas.
Yeah,
like, I didn't, like we talked about. Michael Thomas is the first Saints receiver. Saints Drew Brees receiver to make it with the Saints. So that's So that was not expected, but it was obviously big. I like it. I love it.
Huge news. Colston got snubbed a couple times when he was with the Saints, but other than that, Drew Brees has been thrown to non-Pro Bowl caliber players, and he's been breaking records. I think that's very impressive. But Thomas deserves it. What do you think, Tyler?
Absolutely, Michael Thomas, my dude. And the funny part is, right now he's on pace. Michael Thomas this year, only a couple games left. He's on pace to break the amount of receptions in a game. Right now, Jim Graham has the most for a Saints player with 99 for a season. And right now, Michael Thomas is at 94. And Michael Thomas is also projected to have, I think it was either 1,100 or 1,300 yards. And that will be impressive because he'll be one of the few players only to Odell Beckham and a couple other guys to have over 1,000 yards consecutively through their first 2 seasons. But it's funny. I love Michael Thomas. I'm a huge Shush guy myself, and I'm so happy, especially after seeing the Jets game, knowing that his fellow NFL athletes voted him in. I was very happy because it's funny. Everyone on Twitter was like, "Wait, where's Michael Thomas?" Because people have been keeping track of where the Saints have been as far as the voting goes, and Michael Thomas wasn't really in there. So I'm happy he finally got in. But how about you, Dan?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried he wasn't going to get in. To be honest with you, I was a little bit worried Cameron Jordan was going to get snubbed as well, but I'm really glad he made it in. He's not going to be starting. He received the 3rd most votes, so that's why I was a little bit afraid that he was going to get in. But all of these guys deserve it, especially the 2 rookies who have been just absolutely balling out. Congrats to Brees for a fantastic career, and this just adds to his accolades, and it's going to jumpstart great accolades for both Lattimore and Kamara as well. And obviously, this is Ingram's 2nd Pro Bowl appearance.
I got a question about the Pro Bowl too.
Yeah,
there you go.
Now, I honestly haven't watched the Pro Bowl.
I watch it pretty often.
But don't they do the draft type now?
Yeah, they're doing.
Not really, though. No, not anymore.
It wasn't? Okay.
I think they just changed that this offseason. I don't know. I don't usually watch it either. I just didn't. I don't usually watch it. I just like seeing who ended up being voted in because it is kind of like the All-Star game. But, I don't actually watch it because they try to do that thing with, like, Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders to draft players. And I was like...
Yeah, that's what I thought it was,
a
couple
of years ago.
I think they went back to AFC versus NFC.
They did.
They did.
Okay, they did. Okay.
Which is how it should be. But
great.
I don't know.
I don't like that having teammates kind of play against each other.
Yeah.
I'm not really, because I can't imagine Cam Jordan trying to sack Drew Brees. You know, like I wouldn't see him doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and that would kind of ruin the game, even though I don't want to see that. But I can't see him going up to Drew Brees and sacking.
Yeah.
So
here's one thing though. Can you imagine Michael Thomas on Marshawn Lattimore? Who will win that fight?
Ooh, they probably go at it and practice all the time. Yeah.
Happens
practice
every day. Yeah.
That'd be interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I'd put my money on. I don't know. Put my money on Thomas.
Depends on the route.
Depends on the route.
I was just about to say it depends on the route. Yeah.
Good point.
They had a couple of battles in the camp. I remember. That we seen from some video.
It was like 50-50 too. So
yeah, I remember a couple of them. Did you guys? I just seen on my phone. Did y'all see that the Rams put Greg Zuerlein on IR?
I did see that. Yeah. So maybe Will. That's what I wanted to bring up. Will Lutz, maybe. I don't know. Would he be good? I don't think he's good enough to be in the Pro Bowl, but he could be a replacement for Lutz. I don't know.
Well, I'm not worried about the Pro Bowl in that. I'm worried about the playoffs. That's big. That's big that he's out.
And hopefully none of these Saints play in the Pro Bowl because it's the week before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we're in the Super Bowl. That's what Thomas and all the other guys have been saying about. It's obviously an honor to get into the game, but hopefully I'm not actually playing in it. Obviously we're happy that the Saints got these individual recognitions. So
that's nice.
I want to ask this final question before we wrap this podcast episode up. I'll start with Tyler, and we'll finish off with Mark.
Okay.
Any Saints players you feel deserve some Pro Bowl recognition that did not either get voted in or didn't finish in top 5 at all? Any players you thought got snubbed?
Yeah, I've got 2. I'm trying to think. One on offense, one on defense. So on offense, of course, I think everyone can agree. Even Mark Ingram and Drew Brees mentioned how they feel the offensive line should have got some recognition, especially considering the Saints are top 5 right now in passing and running the ball. If I had to pick between the O-line, I would go Andrews Pete. I think he's been the most consistent of all of our offensive linemen this year. Obviously, of course, you know me in saying that I don't like it when we put him in tackle. He's a surefire guard. But, yeah, I think he played really well this year. I would love to see him play. Who knows? Maybe he'll go in if because we have players from the Pro Bowl that obviously don't always go. But I would love to see that. And on defense, I would go Sheldon Rankins, and here's why. Obviously, he's having a big year. If you were someone from the outside looking in and you just looked at the stats, you would probably disagree. But here's the thing, though. As Saints fans, we watch the film. We take a close look at what Sheldon Rankins does and how he has been able to suffocate double teams and how he's been very consistent. Yeah, I just think Sheldon Rankins right now, I feel at least, he at least deserves some recognition. Maybe an alternate, maybe a starting role. Who knows? But I think he's done really well this year. And despite the injuries and other stuff to the rest of the defense, I think he's been pretty good. But how about you, Mark?
I agree. Mine was Andrews Pete.
There you go.
I think he's had a great year, and I honestly don't know about every guard in the league. So, but I just feel like he's one that would be deserving of being in the Pro Bowl. And like he's like Mark mentioned, we're top 5 in rushing and defense. I mean, and passing. So offensive line deserves some credit. So he would be my pick. I don't really have one on defense. I think Sheldon Rankins having a great year, but I couldn't give him. I don't think he's Pro Bowl yet because of the amount of defensive tackles that are doing the same thing but are getting the stats. So I can't give it to him yet. I love the way he's playing though, but I don't think he's there yet. If I had to pick one on defense, it would be Ken Crawley.
There you go.
Even though once again I don't think he's deserving yet, but if I had to pick one, I think he would be the next. That next player on defense. It's so many great corners in the league, so it's hard to get in the Pro Bowl.
Yep. So, 100% in agreement with you guys. I'll throw another name out there, Chris Banjo on special teams. I think he maybe should have got voted. Buda Baker, great rookie for the Cardinals out of University of Washington, which is about 3 hours away from me, so shout out. So shout out to Buda Baker for making that. But I do think Chris Banjo has played really well. I don't know if they consider, for special teamers, if they consider defensive stats for them, or if they just do special teams, because Banjo does have a very impressive interception on the year and some tackles on the defensive side of the ball. And he plays great on special teams. I'd say Chris Banjo and all of the other guys that you mentioned. So,
Banjo has 2 interceptions, correct?
He does have 2 picks. You're right. Yeah. So maybe I don't know if they consider that or not, but he should at least be second in case of injury to be in the Pro Bowl. Yeah. I'd like that a lot. But
what about Morstead though?
Thomas Morstead would be awesome. But Johnny Hecker is a great. I mean, the Rams just have their pulse on special teams. Farrell Cooper, Johnny Hecker, and Greg Zuerlein all got in. Zuerlein obviously is probably not going to be playing in the game.
Yeah, he's on IR now, so it's over for him.
Right. But you're still going to have Johnny Hecker and Farrell Cooper, so that's really impressive for them. But overall, great news for the Saints. 6 guys voted in, a couple of first-timers, and a couple of rookies as well for our Pro Bowl squad. Mark, thank you so much again for joining us. Really enjoyed your time.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure, dude.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it.
Plug away your social media real quick to see where people can find you.
Twitter is the only thing I really do with football, with the NFL. So you guys can follow me at M_George5.
Awesome.
Mr. Showtime.
And Mark is also putting together a mock draft, a pretty big mock draft. Involving Saints fans picking for other teams, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. Look for that early next year, I believe, for at least the first version of the mock draft. It'll be on Fanspeak. But yeah, guys, keep your eyes peeled and follow Mark on Twitter. Mark, again, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate y'all for having me. It's been a blast. Hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it,
man.
And hopefully the Saints win. So who dat, Mark? Thanks again.
Yeah.
Tyler, world famous outro, man.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Episode 27B. If you love this one, make sure you go check out 27 too. We had Joe Leo on there. He's a great guy. We talked about the Jets and Saints. That was pretty cool. And a quick shout out to, I will be putting it on Blog Talk Radio with a great Jets guy. His name is Paul. I met him. He lives in Syracuse, and I met him in person. He's pretty cool. Huge Jets fan and enthusiast. He has a radio show. Look out for that later in the week. Social media. That's important, right? So make sure to go follow that great guy on the other side of the mic, Dayton Brown. Kudos to you, dude. At Dayton_Brown_. You can follow me, this guy over here, at Raymond Tyler M. That's me, of course. You can follow our official Who Dat Dish podcast account at the WDD Podcast. Make sure to check out Who Dat Dish itself on Facebook. Just search that. Make sure to check out us on iTunes, at Blog Talk Radio, and the internet. If you want, just search the Who Dat Dish podcast. But yeah, we love what we do. We appreciate the support and love. But yeah, that's my amazing outro for you, dude.
Thanks again so much to everybody listening for this fantastic week. Again, biggest podcast. Yeah, thank you to Tyler being a great co-host with me. Biggest episode, biggest week for the Saints this season, so we were very glad to have you along for the ride. Also, be sure to download the Who Dat Dish and Fansided app. They're in the iOS, the Apple Store. They're also for Android in the Google Play market. So download those so you stay up to date with all of the articles, including some summary articles for this very podcast that we try to drop once a week. So, download those apps, whodatdish.com. If you're not living there, you should be, especially if you're a Saints fan. Follow us on social media. Again, guys, thank you so much for making this podcast so much fun and so great. We'll talk to you guys soon. Who Dat?